Hello, and you're very welcome along to another edition of the JMac podcast. I'm John McMahon, and of course, the podcast is kindly brought to you by YourGarage.com. Use my promo code JMac podcast to get 15% off on the website. And tonight, I'm joined by a stellar bunch of gentlemen to talk about the All Ireland quarterfinals, the Tailteann Cup action that took place over the weekend, and of course, the preliminary action. So, really looking forward to chatting to Johnny Murtagh, Kevin McGurty, Killian Whelan, and David Byrne tonight. So, I'll start off with Johnny Murtagh. How are you, sir?
Doing good, John. Yeah, doing good. Probably sick listening to you and Cavan, but I'm looking forward to listening to the other two boys. So it's great to be on with David and Killian. So looking forward to that.
Yeah, in fairness, Johnny, I looked at the group chats me and you is in together, and it's kind of sick at this stage. But you just have an addiction. You have an addiction to me, and you can't
There's
help
only
it.
27 groups that listening, so it's not too bad.
Kevin McGurty, it's good to see you smiling off face again. How are you?
Not bad, John. First time been on in a while. I actually just want to let the listeners know I gave a fucking brilliant introduction there, which I've been thinking about for about an hour. And Davy Byrne's Wi-Fi gave up, so I'm not going to say as much as I did the last time, but I had it all prepared. But Davy, thanks very much. You're like the Limerick hurlers. My script went right out the window.
Okay, take 10. Take 10.
That's a touchy subject. Mr. McGurty. Holy God. Killian Whelan, how are you?
Good evening to you, John. Yeah, we had a great weekend, so I'm looking forward to being on with the lads here and getting their perspective on it, because I'm fed up being on my own with you, so it's good to have company this evening.
Brilliant.
Jesus, you're cutting deep tonight, lads. And last but not least, the one and only, after all this time, David Byrne.
And we'll get past this stage now, we're cut out. But yeah, as I said, I've been on in a while. It's great to be on, and coming on in the latter stage of the championship. You give the hard slog throughout the group stage, and I'm jumping on the bandwagon now. But no, it's great. It's great to be back on.
Yeah, you're like that good forward that finishes off the good chances. And are you okay to talk after Limerick getting bed at the weekend? I know McGurty rubbed it into you.
No, we'll stick to the Limerick football if that's okay. Football podcast. That's. We might touch on a bit of Kerry football. That's it. We'll leave it at that then.
Oh God, don't start me. Right,
we've always been first All Ireland winners football, so we've always been a football county.
The mighty kingdom, absolutely. Well, great stuff, lads, and that is what it's all about. And I suppose, lads, we will crack right into the action that took place over the weekend in the Tailteann Cup semi-finals. It was Kildare against Fermanagh. It was Kildare 113, Fermanagh 9 points in Croke Park. Well, Killian Whelan, a very good win for Brian Flanagan at Kildare. He will be thrilled to get to a Tailteann Cup final, but 9 points in a game of football is not going to cut the butter either, Killian Whelan.
Yeah, this was a terrible watch, I have to say, John. No question about it. Putrid enough stuff until a young man who used to be involved a little bit in coaching in Maynooth University, Brian McLaughlin, got on the field, and he was like he was Riot Rovers. Everything he seemed to touch went over the crossbar. He kicked 3 single points and then a 2-pointer, and ultimately that won him the man of the match in 25 minutes. It was fair going, and he ultimately decided the game. It was like the weather conditions obviously played a part, but Kildare butchered 3 goal opportunities in, I think, the opening 11 minutes. They were that far ahead of Fermanagh as well. I just was disappointed maybe in the way Fermanagh went about things. The game seemed to suit them. The Kildare weren't getting away, but you just wonder, if Kildare had even converted one of those goal chances, I don't know where Fermanagh were going to be able then to hunt Kildare down. They just seemed to get stuck in a rut as well. And it was eventually, it required a little bit of an injection off the bench. And, someone like Brian has been a talented underage forward in Kildare. He's been much talked about, but he's been much aligned with injury in the last 3 to 4 years. And, has been thereabouts. He's said now essentially that he's looking to get a start in the Tailteann Cup final. Did yesterday's performance do enough? I think it may have, and he'd be definitely worth his go in that final against Limerick. But look, I think as Brian Flanagan rightly said, he wasn't anyway hiding behind the fact it was a terrible performance, won't be good enough for the final. But you've got to remember, John, in 5 big games, including championship in Croke Park that Kildare have been in, they've lost all of them. So to get a win in Croke Park I know the lads here mightn't agree, but in a big game for Kildare in their current situation was huge. And that psychological lift just to get it over the line was massive. So, you'd have to credit that they've got there. But that performance, I don't think, when you look at the forwards that Limerick have on show, and they have 2 marauding wing backs as well, it won't be good enough, I don't think, in the Tailteann Cup final. So they've 3 weeks to sort that out.
Yeah. Obviously, watching on in the Tailteann Cup semi-final, it's a huge opportunity for that Fermanagh team, and not getting to Croke Park on a regular basis. And obviously, Kieran Donnelly, he'll have a lot of questions this week in his head, and Ronan O'Neill, part of the backroom team, and they'll be really disappointed, Killian. You only get one chance at these things at the best times with a Cork kind of team, Cork kind of setup, but he'll be really disappointed this week.
Yeah, because a lot was talked about, obviously the form that Conor Love was in, and I just think Kildare did a very good job on him, and negated an awful lot of I suppose opportunity that he might have been able to get on. But the transition was woeful to look at. It was back to the bad old days, John, of what we saw before these new rules came in under the FRC. It was just woeful to watch, and again, I still have my critique of Kildare, and I don't know. I everything yesterday was up as far as the arc now. At one time it used to be the top of the D, now it's the arc, and hand pass back again, hand pass again. It was. I had to laugh at the question being asked of Kevin Feely. The kick passing has become a big part of your game, and I was kind of going, where did Joanne Cantwell see that a whole lot in the game? Because I didn't. It just was woeful. Now, I know you're probably waiting on the opportunity, but there was no runner off the shoulder. There was no one taking that chance. And in fairness to McLaughlin, when he did come in, he was the one that actually started making some of these diagonal runs and off the shoulder. And he was then able to create that little bit of space. And probably Fermanagh got a bit leggy, and he was able to, make hay there in that kind of context. But Kildare still don't seem to have adjusted well to the new rules, John. I just don't understand it. No long-range kickers, no one practicing two-pointers, no one practicing 45s, it would seem. Going forward, they're in Division 2 next year. If they win this Tailteann Cup and are in the Sam Maguire, they'll be very quickly back down out of it if they don't adjust their play in some way.
Yeah, definitely an interesting game in Croke Park over the weekend, and on go Kildare to a Tailteann Cup final. But I'd say stuttering through, and I know semi-finals are for winning, but I think a better performance will be needed the next day. And then the other Tailteann Cup semi-final that took place yesterday, it was Limerick 218, Wicklow 117 at Croke Park. A great win for Limerick. David Byrne, you will be absolutely delighted with that. A Tailteann Cup final to look forward to. Oisin McConville questioning his future with the Wicklow senior footballers after that game. Be interested to see what happens now in the next couple of days with Oisin and Wicklow. But David Byrne, a Tailteann Cup final to look forward to.
Yeah, it's huge for Limerick football, and I think Killian touched on it there. I think Brian Flanagan, Kildare manager, said it was an ugly win, and I wasn't overly impressed with Kildare, so obviously they're the huge favourites going into the final. But I'd give Limerick a fighting chance. I think it was only Kildare's 4th win in 24 games or something like that in Croke Park. Limerick have a good record up there now in recent years, and Division 4 final this year. And Limerick, it's strange. It kind of went up on a trajectory of doing well and getting back up to Division 4, getting to a Munster final, and went slowly back down afterwards when Billy Lee left. And Jimmy Lee's doing an unbelievable job of bringing new players. They couldn't buy a win at the start of his first campaign in the Division 4 last year. They couldn't buy a win at the very start, and this year to go on and win the division. And Limerick football is slowly back on the up again. I think they'll be competitive in Division 3 next year, and I wouldn't write them off against Kildare. I'd argue, likes of James Noxon and Danny Neville, they'd be a good asset to the majority of football teams in the country.
Yeah. What impressed you most about Limerick yesterday, David? Obviously, it was a great win against a very good Wicklow team, and Oisin McConville has done incredible work with them. But what impressed you most about Limerick yesterday?
Their work rate, and the fact they were 7 points down, I think 17 minutes in the second half or whenever it was, and just that fight and determination to come back, and to win by, was it 4 points? Like Limerick teams of the past were kind of throwing the towel at that stage, and 7 points down and Croke Park, and they're not used to playing up there, and it's a big game. It's a semi-final, and to think that they're one game away from pulling off a shock maybe, and a Division 3 team then back up in playing in Sam Maguire next year, because being honest with you, unless they lucky side of draw, they're eventually going to play Kerry and Munster. They could get into the group. I know the group stage they're gone next year, but get into the Sam Maguire, from getting to a Munster final. But they need a look of a draw in Munster to avoid Kerry, really, or Cork even, and that'd be huge, because from what I seen Kildare yesterday, they're not overly impressive. And Killian touching it there. I think they had one 2-pointer they scored. Was it Lockton came on as a sub and scored it. You know, they're not adapting to the rules. Similar to maybe what Galway were at the start of the year. And yeah, I think what impressed me most was their attacking play. And just that belief to come back after being 7 points down was huge. You know, that'll stand to them, I think, in 3 weeks' time.
Yeah. Johnny Burt, I have to ask you about Oisin McConville and Wicklow. What do you foresee now for Oisin?
It's probably tricky. I was just thinking about that today, John. When I did see the headline, it's sort of been like whether he doesn't know what he's going to do. He's maybe possibly looking to eye something else up or make a decision on it. But probably just back to the game. Probably what I think maybe Killian, maybe that Kildare, I would still give Kildare a massive chance now in the final. And I think getting the monkey off their back probably in Croke Park, you know, like the full forward line, John only registered 3 points until that sub come on, and he got man of the match performance, you know, and he didn't even play a full half, you know, so like he registered 5 points. Like he didn't have any baggage. He didn't really care. He was there to play, and you know, I think even just getting over the line was very important for Kildare and Croke Park, and I think that could actually make all the difference the next day. Like, you know, Karen and Daniel Flynn, these boys, like whenever they hit top form, you know, and we've seen it before over the years, them boys are very capable of racking up an awful amount of scores. But they registered 3 points between the two of them, you know, the other day, which you're kind of saying to yourself, well, again, for Mana, like you'd only scored 9 points. You know, as Killian says, they're going over and back, ball back to the pivot, over to the other side. Nobody really making them runs. No wall ball man in the full forward line to pop the ball in, and maybe somebody coming off the shoulder. What we're talking about, you know, that sort of option. You know, so I still think that, you know, just getting that win in Croke Park, John, they'll get a massive amount of lift from it, and I expect Brian is going to have them. Definitely, they're going to be up for that final. They're definitely going to want to win it without a shadow of a doubt. So I expect a massive turnaround from them come the Tailteann Cup final.
Absolutely. Kevin, any thoughts on that before we go to the All-Ireland stuff?
Yeah, just agreeing with Killian really on. It looked as if Fermanagh, they played with shackles on the whole game. There was no sense of adventure. We're inside Croke Park. This is a one-off opportunity for us in the last couple of years. Why not go out and express ourselves in the best way forward? Why not try to sorry, my young daughter's trying to say something.
Hello, how are you?
But anyway, you go.
What's the story? Is she playing with shackles off tonight, Kevin?
Yes, mental. School's out this week. But no,
God help you.
You know, you have to be critical of Kieran and the guys, because really, as you say, Ronan O'Neill being the top class forward he was, you want to get quick early ball in, you want to get bodies forward. Sorry, give me 1 second.
I want to
okay.
make one.
Right, okay, you go. So that was my view on Fermanagh, but I'd also say, Killian, you were right in your assessment that early on they had 2 goal chances, or 2 or 3 goal chances. But when we actually look back and assess the match, if I get this right, up to about 60 minutes, there was still a kick of the ball, 2 kicks of a ball in the game. And Josh Argo-Lennis, he missed a sitter. And Fermanagh also had another goal opportunity. Now, they didn't deserve to win the game because of what I've just said. They came too late on. You know, when you're in Croke Park, go and tell lads to express themselves. Kick the ball in long and early. Don't play with shackles on. And in a way as well, as you say, when the man of the match comes on after 42 minutes and scores 5 points, you know, that just shows you how dire of a game it was up until then. And both teams were playing conservatively and within themselves. And I think Johnny makes an outstanding point. Moving forward, for Kildare to get the best out of themselves, they're going to kick the ball in long to people like Flynn. That's where he's strongest. Kick it long in early. And that's where they get scores from moving forward. From a Limerick perspective, I think Davey hit the nail on the head. Absolutely unbelievable character to come back from where they were in that period of time. So, you know, it's going to be an intriguing final. I do think Kildare need to win this. I think we need a strong Kildare moving forward. I think this will give them a platform. And remember, Meath and Down were here not so long ago, and we've seen where they are now, you know, with Tailteann Cup final last year and how it's helped them, you know, move forward. You know, sometimes you have to go down to learn, to regroup, to get new management, to uncover new players. So I think the Tailteann Cup's serving as well in that way. And hopefully, these two teams can then kick on after it. But it'll be an intriguing final. And, to see a boy like Danny Neville, it's not only the way he played yesterday, the way he's played over the last couple of weeks. I mean, he kicked 2-2, 2-3 last week against Wexford. He was unplayable. So, I mean, when you've got a guy like that playing well, also special mention to Dean Healy as well. He's been very good for Wicklow as well, and the goalkeeper as well.
Jackson.
Yeah, Jackson. He's been incredible over the last number of weeks as well. The amount of scores that he's going through. So it's given these lads a platform to develop. And I think, Oisín has to think long and hard. Is it now time that he's taking this team as far as he can? Is it time for a new project? Or is there still something there that he can develop? And, managers can be inherently selfish and say, look, I'm going to stay on. It's all about ego. I don't think Oisín's that sort of person. He'll sit back, he'll look at this, and he'll think what's best for Wicklow football. And hopefully, that decision will come quickly and they can build on. They've taken some steps this year. Let's be honest. Let's give them credit. But for Mana, I think Kieran has to look long and hard at where he's going now. Because that was just... It was so negative yesterday. It's very difficult to find anything positive to say about Fermanagh.
Yeah.
I have to agree there, John, just with Kevin. I think Oisín might be disappointed, though, that they didn't get out of Division 4. Wicklow took a while to get going, and it was actually Limerick that bounced back well off of a draw against Wicklow and then really went on a run since that. And I just don't think Wicklow maybe hit the traps of what Oisín wanted this year. I think he definitely wanted promotion with Division 4. If he got promotion and maybe that semi-final place, he probably would have seen it as a successful year. I think he's probably worried that has he taken them as far as he can go. But this still is a Wicklow team developing. A lot of young players in that crew. I'd say the average, you have Healy there that probably throws your average age over the limit a little bit, but they're vast majority of them are under 24, 25 years of age. So there's still something there in Wicklow, and they play a lovely brand of football. When they were in full throws yesterday, they were amazing to watch, but then you'd have to credit the way Limerick just decided to, I think bit the bullet a little bit and just went for it. And Jackson, you could say, the Childs fouled him. There could have been some merit in that, but ball is in the back of the net, 4 points difference. Then Wicklow get a penalty. Probably wasn't a great penalty for McGrainer, and it was well stopped. And of course, you have to give credit Josh Ryan. Josh Ryan, phenomenal. Man nearly lost his leg 2 years ago. 3 breaks in it. Phenomenal to come back and to do what he did yesterday and win man of the match as well. Give him some credit. Limerick play a lovely brand of football. I think Kildare could be under a little bit of pressure. If that Limerick side turn up and are all hitting the traps the way they were yesterday, it could be interesting. Ian Corbett will be fully fit. He had suffered a virus. Nocton, that could be the worry, if that ankle injury is more serious, and maybe David would know a little bit more. But I still think, even though look what they went on and did without Nocton and Corbett on the field. So, Kildare will be looking over their shoulders, no question about that. And the media and everyone's going to make them the hot favourites, but don't discount Limerick in any way. You're getting to Croke Park. Why wouldn't you have a cut off it, John? There's nothing to lose.
Not an issue for Mana.
Yeah. And that's just on that point in the Limerick Wicklow game, it's a microcosm of the other games this weekend. About 2 points that I think we all should make moving down the stretch of the championship. Momentum is bloody key, and when Limerick got that momentum, the penalty save, whatever else, that's when they kick on. The other thing is injuries and substitutions. Benches are going to have to be ran. We're seeing injuries. We'll get to talk about Galway. This is going to be key coming in. Momentum, injuries, bench. And they're going to be key over the next 2 to 3 weeks. Some of them teams are going to get further than others because basically they'll handle that better than other teams.
Yeah. Agreed.
Yeah. 2 quick questions for you, David. Can Limerick win the final? And number 2, can the GA do more to promote the Tailteann Cup?
Yeah, I think the Tailteann Cup has grown. It's grown naturally, I think. One thing I would, it's coupled up. I think it gets lost when the final is on before the semi-finals. I'm not saying it should be standalone fixture, but maybe before the final or something. I don't know. But no, I think it's naturally grown. I think it's Kevin hit it on the nail there. It's for teams like Down, Meath, Kildare to regroup, to grow again. Those are football counties. We all know Limerick is predominantly hurling county, and I think this is different. I think it's big for them. It's big to grow it, and I think it's big. It's huge in West Limerick as a pocket, but it's huge. It'll get the interest. And this is, it's a group of players, young players coming through now again. They had the young team a few years ago, and he's brought in a huge new rack of young new players. A lot of them from his own club, Newcastle West. I think Richter is a fine footballer. Danny Neville, when he immigrated, I think he moved to Australia or New Zealand, one of those a couple of years ago. Huge loss to Limerick football when they were back up to Division 2. You asked me there, can they win it? Of course they can. I think they should believe they can, but I think Kildare are obviously huge favourites, and I think this was a rebuilding year for Kildare. They'll want to go back. They'll need to go back up. Whereas Limerick, it'll be a successful year regardless. They're back up to Division 3 and they're growing again. And I think the interest is there. Club level like Newcastle West are as good a club team in Munster. If you take out the Kerry teams and maybe the stronger Cork teams, they got to a Munster final a couple of years ago and were unlucky against Kearns or Raleigh. So, football in Limerick is in a strong place, in a good place. I think Kildare will need it more, I think, and they are a stronger team. They have that experience of playing in Croke Park, and I think they will get over the line. But Limerick will give them a good game, I think, and they do play a nice. If you even contrast the styles of football yesterday, I think Limerick are a way more attractive team to play. But I think to watch, and I think it'll be interesting to see how tactics fare out on in 3 weeks' time.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's the Tailteann Cup action wrapped up over the weekend, lads, and then we'll crack into the All-Ireland Senior Football Championship preliminary quarterfinals that took place on Saturday. You had Dublin against Cork. It was Dublin 119, Cork 116 in Croke Park. A good win for Dublin. Johnny, they'll be delighted with that. On to a quarter-final now, and Brian Howard's goal was absolutely sensational. Cork ran Dublin close. They put in a huge performance, and I suppose answered a lot of questions for a lot of fans, but they're getting there. Will John Cleary be there? Will be another question, but what's your thoughts on this game?
Yeah, look at it. I agree. I probably felt it in the last 10 minutes. I thought Cork ran out of steam. Hurley was off the field as well at that stage. When you're probably looking to get maybe a 2-pointer at a key time, another man that Dublin done savage work. Like O'Driscoll never got scoring at all, and he's been renowned for kicking a couple of 2-pointers as well, coming from half back. He didn't register at all in the game, but there was serious performances by a couple of Dublin players. Like I thought Sean Bugler had a serious game. Whenever those big scores need to be taken, like he got 5 points. So without Conor O'Callaghan there, a couple of guys did step up. There was, the O'Coffey Bourne's awful hard to handle around the middle. He fetched serious ball at times. And Cork isn't that small around the middle either. There's a couple of big performances around there by Cork as well. But look, I think on the grand scheme of things, John, over the weekend, like I said previously, all the favourites won the weekend. We thought there might have been one shock along the line, and this is one of the games where you could have seen an extra time, or it was just depending on what sort of Dublin was going to turn up. But straight away, they busted out the traps like they always do in the first 10 minutes. Paddy Small was electric. He was on it, fisted over a pint, maybe could have had a goal early on as well. And then next thing they done what Dublin does, and they pull the handbrake and they messed about, and I don't know what the boys think, but again, the Division 1 teams, you're not going to get away with that.
Is that why they won't win in All Ireland, Johnny?
Yeah, that's exactly why they won't win All Ireland. And if they can't get a full fit Conor O'Callaghan back on the field,
forget about it.
Yeah, for me anyway. Yes, the big man in midfield for me, O'Coffey Bourne, he's papering over the cracks, and that's been honest. He's papering over the cracks because he's fielding savage ball at different times, But like Kilkenny, in fairness to him, caught a couple of good balls in midfield as well, and he has good hands on him. A very smart, intelligent player. But it's just the Jacqueline Hyde stuff that they do in a game, and it drives you mental. Like they start a game at 100 mile an hour, and then next thing they disappear. And Costello, what did he get? 5 points as well, I think, 5 or 6 points. But some awful decisions he made as well, and you're just thinking to yourself, like, what? They're nearly. Do you know what, lads? They're nearly like a team sometimes that you think aren't pulling together. Like, it sort of seems to be like they'll turn it on individually, turn it on at different times, and then they're just missing something in there. And I know Con's not there; he makes an awful difference if he's a full forward. But I don't know. There's just I can't see them winning all that anyway.
I have to agree with Johnny. John, I firmly believe that they're completely disjointed. It just doesn't seem to be the sum of all parts at all. They're playing, I wouldn't say as individuals, but there's definitely, it's not all linked together particularly well. And when you see they got off to a 4-point to no score start and then concede a goal in 2 points, the Sean Bugler 2-pointer just before half time was massive in the context of the game. It put them only 2 points behind, having played really poorly in the final quarter of that first half. And then once they had a bit of momentum then to start the second half, and Cork tried and were real honest. I will give Cork some credit. I just feel the last 2 games they really went out and felt that if they're getting any slack from their own fans or the media or whatever, that we're going to show people that they are able to play football. But I just don't think they're obviously at that level. So but Dublin, for me, I don't think, I was looking at Tomás O'Shea last night in the Sunday game, and he said you could make a case for them unless they have Conor Callan on, unless all of a sudden things start to fall into place for them. They're just, to me, they're too disjointed that they would be able to see it over the line. And ultimately, I think we're lucky to get over a mediocre, team. I don't think Cork are anyway shooting lights out or anything like that. So, it was only a 3-point win in front of everyone that was in Croke Park. So I can't see them winning All Ireland. And I'm making a prediction already, John. I think I've said it to you. I can't see either Leinster County being involved after this weekend.
Yeah, I'm with the lads. I'm totally with the lads on Dublin at this stage. I'm going to totally write them off for the All Ireland. And to say that with a team that contains players of the caliber of Conor O'Callaghan, Kieran Kilkenny's experience, Stephen Cluxton's experience, Brian Hard, Niall Scully, people who have been around the block, who have done it time after time after time. But I think Killian said it beautifully. Totally and utterly disjointed. It's as if they gather up 15 minutes before throw in. He picks the best 15 players available and just says, lads, go out there and do what you do. There's no connection from back to front. Again, when you're scoring half your scores in a period, remember they went 4-0 up, as Killian rightly said, but they also scored 4 of the game's last 5 scores. And that's almost half the scores that they scored within that small period of time. Now, if they go, I think they went from the 5th to the 17th minute without scoring yesterday. If they do that against a Tyrone or an Armagh or even a Kerry, you've seen the scores that some of these teams have been racking up already this year. It ain't happening for them. It isn't working for them. And I tell you a bloody fundamental problem they have, and Cork got the goal from it. Cluxton's kick out. Cluxton kicks the ball out and they lose the ball over by the sideline. They're caught sleeping. And then the ball's brought in and I think it's Chris O'Jogues finishes to the net. And they were lucky they didn't concede another goal straight after where Cluxton makes a point-blank save. And that, I think Killian said again, Bugler's play was outstanding. I slightly disagree with Johnny. With Pater O'Queef Byrne, my problem with him is that he's a great fielder of the ball. He's a hugely, hugely influential footballer, but he's not bullying people the way that the likes of Brian Fenton was doing. Not going and taking the game by the scruff of the neck, going and owning that, coming through from the middle of the park, making them overlaps. I'd like to see more of him. I've seen him play, obviously, in the All-Ireland club this year, and there's, lots and lots of brilliant potential in that fella. But he needs to go out and fulfill them, take what Fenton was doing in the years before him, bully teams.
Too nice, yeah.
Yeah. He's for me, yes. There's a hell of a footballer in there. He's everything that you want in him. But I'd like to see him go and own games more than he's doing. At times we've seen the other big teams this year, the Shane Walshes, the Rian O'Neills, the Michael Murphys, these sort of boys. Look, there's no back doors in these lads. They step up to the mark when they're needed. And they'll be at the head of you. He just seems to be this sort of lad from the Lira direction. Everything's just fine, good. He'll go inside Croke Park. He knows he's good, whatever else. You'd love to hit him a good thump because he has so much potential to go out there. I've said this as well about Tony Brosnan. Another guy has so much potential to go and rule games. And that's what I'm looking from him. But it's all too individualised. It's too disjointed. I don't think that they have as good as bench as they've had in the past. And McCann out, especially getting against a team like Tyrone. One thing Tyrone have is excellent man markers. Even if Con is in there, he's going to find it hard if he's up against Quinn or he's up against Hampshire or these boys. I think Tyrone will absolutely suffocate Dublin this weekend if that Dublin turns up that we seen the other day.
Yeah, absolutely. And then the other game, lads, over the weekend on Saturday, you had Kerry against Cavan. It was Kerry 320, Cavan 117. I think a result we probably all predicted. David Clifford masterclass once again, and he was absolutely sensational, scoring a hat-trick. And he said after the game he could have got a double hat-trick. It was a long, long day for Cavan supporters. Another season over. And that's it, David.
Yeah. Look, Armagh will be the first Division 1 team Kerry play in the Championship this year. They're going to have to up their game, even though they won by 9 points. They still weren't at their best. They're riddled with injuries. When you're relying on David Clifford to score 3-7 of their overall score, you can't be relying on one forward when you get to Croke Park like that. And I think that they're going to be up against it against Armagh now on Sunday, I think.
Johnny?
Yeah, look, it's a draw that I wanted. You're getting Kerry at the right time. I think, look, you take, and it's probably, I don't want to be harsh on Cavan, but you take Paddy Smith out of that, he got 12 points. Man, there was battling his own way back from injury as well, and Paddy Lynch, a man that's been battling back from a serious injury and he had to come back and be the main stalwart, John, for his. Lynch is a fantastic footballer and he'd even get in that Kerry team, so, and you take him out of that and I think David's covered it. Clifford got 3-7 out of 320 and he missed another few other goals, and look at it's all about timing, and Kerry's not going to get that time next weekend, and they're going to have boys hopping off them left, right and centre, and I would question their defence, to be honest with you. I think obviously Clifford he's coming in good form, but they still need a fully fit Paddy Clifford to make them tick. Sean O'Shea is not even a full fitness there at the minute either. O'Connor in midfield is going to be a massive miss. So, look, we'll probably talk about the game later on, John, but I'm glad. I think we're getting Kerry at the ideal right time. And if you're going to win All Ireland, now's the time to get them, and I'm delighted with the draw.
Yeah, absolutely. Killian, any kind of final thoughts on that?
Yeah, no, again, hard to disagree with Johnny there. I think it's the right time for Armagh to get them. I think David Clifford in Croke Park with one of the man markers for Armagh, even if one guy doesn't work, there's going to be someone else that's going to be able to be of a standard to be able to mark Clifford. It's going to ask an awful lot. You've no Paul Ganey, you've no Dermot O'Connor, you have Sean O'Shea, as you rightly said, probably in third gear, not fully there. I'm not sure a big game in Croke Park against Armagh is exactly what they want. It's the worst draw, but it was the game that ultimately was fell into place, so they knew exactly what they were capable of. But look, credit Kerry, they are the kingpins that everyone wants to take down. They will be, reveling in probably thinking this is the ideal game to take out Armagh as well, and it opens up the whole championship. But I have to agree with Johnny. I think this is perfect time for Armagh. I don't think Kerry are firing on all cylinders. There's lots of a little bit of unrest within the group, I believe. Injuries have riddled that as well. And they can't afford anyone now to fall off the wagon, but they don't have everyone that they need fully fit, and it's going to require, I think, a little bit of an implosion from Armagh and maybe another David Clifford show to get Kerry over the line. I just can't see it. Yeah,
and I think a couple of years ago when Kerry had a fully fit team the year they did win Ireland, when Clifford was being double marked. This year, looking at the two Gainies, Connor and Dylan, they don't have the experience of the likes of Paul Gainey, and they'll find it difficult. It's not as if one of them will step up to the plate for the likes of Gainey, and if Clifford is marked out of the game, I think they will really struggle on Sunday.
David, can I ask you one question? Just what stuff I would have been hearing, the little bit of disquieting Kerry about Cian O'Neill and maybe his coaching practices about maybe the amount of injuries that have been picked up by Kerry, that there are kind of a few people in Kerry equating what went on in Galway, that, you know, Galway picked up injuries under his coaching as well.
Yeah, actually, there was brilliant discussion on it earlier on Terrace Talk. I was listening on the way home, and they were saying that as well. You know, it's not your regular ankle injuries or knocks or you know, it's tissue injuries, and they were questioned. You know, the training, they're training too hard. Is it Jack O'Connor kind of feeling the pressure and pushing them a bit too far? Because you know it is tissue injuries, your calf injuries, hamstrings. And I know that the games are coming thick and fast, and I think it did not suit Kerry. The last thing they wanted was to lose to Meath and have an extra game, and I think they're going to struggle with that because they have six serious injuries, you know, and O'Connor are gone now. And I think it's you know, they will struggle with that, and they have I think they're even bringing back the likes of Paddy Clifford too early, and I think, you know, yeah, I think there are huge questions being asked and what's going on in the training, or they've been overtrained. What's the recovery like? I know they're amateur players, but you know that compared to other counties, they do seem to have a lot of injuries this year, and they're not your usual knocks, as I said. You know, they're muscle injuries, tissue injuries, and yeah, that is a huge talking point down here.
But it just shows you, lads, as well. I think Killian, David, you made the point at the very start. This is the first team Kerry will have played. This is Division 1 team, this stage of the competition. That game, no disrespect, John, to Cavan, I'll come touch on that in a second. It done nothing for nobody. It especially didn't do anything for David Clifford because he's not going to get that freedom anywhere near it this weekend.
Not a hope.
You know, Kerry, look, for me, you know, I'm a mad Kerry fan, John, but the writing's been on the wall for 3 years. It's not about what happens up front or in the middle of the park for them. It's about what's happening at the back. And, you know, they've been brutal, absolutely brutal at the back. And when we face it, Kerry were always going to win the game. Cavan come back with a bit of pride. And if you remember, Pádraig Faulkner goes through and blasts the ball over the top, over the bar. If he puts that in the back of the net, you know, I think there was 5 points in it, and Cavan get the next point. And the guy actually, if he had been a bit more cognizant of where he was, he actually had a one-pointer, and he could have easily just stayed outside and knocked over a two-pointer, and the game would have been in the balance, you know. But when you have somebody, you know, for me at the minute, for Kerry to win the All-Ireland, they're going to need 3 big performances in a row. And with these players out, and even with the way that they're playing and what they're doing at the back, I can't see them putting back-to-back or 3 back-to-back performances to win the All-Ireland this year. I really don't. In fact, you know, when we look at it now, Kerry and Dublin are the 2 teams that I possibly put as 4th and 5th, and that's a huge statement.
Yeah. Oh, harsh words on Kerry, lads, but I don't think you're far wrong now, in fairness. And then we'll move on to Sunday's action, lads, in the All-Ireland Senior Football Championship preliminary quarterfinals. It was down against Galway. It was down 3-21. Galway 2-26 in Park Esler. Lads, what a game of football. Jesus Christ, we just have it back, and it is great to see. Obviously, Cailán Mooney saying after the game that he is retiring from the down senior footballers, and Cailán put in some stint for the down lads, and he had some career, but as he was saying, the body just can't keep up with the pace and standards and everything that comes with Gaelic football at the minute. But a good win for Galway. You know, Johnny, you said maybe during the week that it could have been a bit of banana skin, but they did get over the line. Peter Cook brought a lot to it. Shane Walsh probably done very well too, but a great game in Uri.
Yeah, and what I was alluding to was I knew Down was going to hit a massive score, and I was just saying to myself that a potential banana skin for me, and I said it to Finian as well in the group, that it was going to be a sticky one to go up there, and they needed every bit of effort they had to get over the line, and Down had their chances as well to get something out of the game, and it didn't happen, you know. But it was like serious performances, and just what Killian was saying there earlier about the Tailteann Cup and how Down went in it. Like, look at the difference in them. Look at the performances of Owen Murdoch, for example. A young fella was coming through, an absolute powerhouse. Like, he did not care about his surroundings the other day, the same as the previous weekend, throwing men out of his road, and the size of the big young fella, you know, very, very, very appealing. I think Conor Lafferty's done a damn good job with that Down team, you know, for a team that's been in Donegal All-Ireland finals there, and a Division 1 team they threw the kitchen sink at them, and they're awfully unlucky not to get something out of the game, but probably something for me now would be a concern for Galway was probably Paul Conroy. Like what has happened to Paul Conroy, and very disappointing performance in there and struggled at times, and the goalkeeper as well, lads, is a massive issue for me. And
Have you said that for the last 3 years, haven't you? Sorry, Johnny, but Kev just...
Yeah.
3 years ago, he's an absolute pudding. The first thing I'd be doing is fire the ball high and on top of him. He's been susceptible for 3 years. Go at another team's Achilles heel, and it's time and time again. The kick-out's a problem as well.
Yeah. Fully agree. It's the goalkeeper's been a massive problem, and it doesn't seem to be getting any better. Like Armagh a couple of weeks ago, like didn't really go for that game. Like Rory Gurgan being rested, a couple of players being rested, a few subs being took off at half time. Armagh was coasting at that stage. But whenever he came under pressure, he was kicking them over the sideline. He was getting turned over on kickouts. That's, lads, the goalkeeping is a massive issue for Galway, and they've a great team. Good to see Peter Cook back. In fairness to him, got him back this year. Big able fella. John round midfield as well. He'll give you everything he has. Works very, very hard. But them's two massive problems for me. And Shane Walsh has had his two big performances now. He's been off injured. Looks like he could be in bother. No coma. I tell you what, boys. If that's the case, the weekend, I think to be beat.
Killian?
Yeah, like I can't understand how Galway haven't sorted out the goalkeeping situation. Even if it was to follow the Armagh line of putting an outfield player in and playing to that kind of line, just standard kickouts at inter-county level of a team that were All-Ireland finalists last year that would be thinking of winning, it's criminal. If you were doing it at under 16 level or whatever within a club, people be looking for your head. I just can't believe that there isn't another guy that could be found in Galway that could come in there. I have to agree with Kevin. Like, it's just an absolute pudding is right. Like, you'd be lay some ball in on top of him and see what happened in the first couple of minutes there. Down were very unlucky. I think phenomenal team. I always loved Down football. I just think the quality of what they play over their decades has just been something real tough and classy about it. But Laverty's done a huge amount of work. 13 different scores, John. Like that's phenomenal. Everyone from wing back to the full forward and two subs as well. It's just unbelievable the spread of scores, and people might be talking about that to be relying on Havern, but geez, I don't know. There's a lot of guys have stepped up this year for me, and they definitely saw Galway as an opportunity. Park Esther just a little bit unlucky, but Galway again. No, I'm writing them off. I'm throwing them in with Dublin and Kerry here, because I just think if Walsh, if that's anyway serious, if Conroy is gone back the gears, and you can't get the goalkeeper kicking out, how key that is ultimately to building performance right. I think now things are starting, John. It's going up a level this weekend. That's the thing. It's really, you got to start getting serious about things. And I'd be worried about Galway being found out this weekend.
Kevy?
I agree with what the lad said. Look, I just want to add a couple of points. I think the boys have covered the game. Sean Fitz held Pat Havering quite well. He had a very good game. That's a positive for Galway. Murdoch is exactly what I'm talking about. Pater O'Keefe Byrne. That's a sort of, this young lad, I've known him. He's been coming from that great Byrne under-16 team for a number of years, but he is a very, very talented footballer, and he's someone that Down should be building around over the next couple of years. People like him, Eugene Brannigan. The big problem for me about Down is, let's all pat them in the back. The harshness now is that they're going back into the Tailteann Cup next year because of the league positions. Let's remember, 4 points in the group stage. I think, didn't they get 2 wins? Yeah. So they get 4 points in the group stage, and they're out after an absolute epic game. By the way, we had 52 scores in that game yesterday, which is incredible. That's what we're paying in to see. We're getting bang for our buck. but it's just really unfortunate for Down. Look, I've said it before many times in this podcast. I know Conor Lobby very well. He's one of the finest GA coaches in the country. And Down need to stick with him, stick with that project. As I say, unfortunately, just the way the system works, they'll go back down next year. But them young boys will get great experience out of this. And all they can do is build upon it. As for Galway, no, I think, was it Dylan McHugh come off as well near the end? Or Killian McDade come off injured as well towards the end of the game?
McDade, yeah.
So, Killian McDade, another huge player for them. Obviously, the Shane Waltz issues. Seen Peter Cook play Sigerson a couple of years back. Brilliant footballer, brilliant at coming through in the burst. Can hit 2-pointers as well, so he's another plus. But look, everything points to Galway not lacking enough up front. Obviously, we'll have to talk about Matthew Thompson as well in an excellent game for them. But really, when you're losing marquee players like Comer, like Walsh, when Conroy's off the, gone off the boil, when you have problems at the back with your goalkeeper, again, I think they might hobble over the line this weekend just because who to play. Maybe I'll get that wrong, but I can't see them cutting any delve, getting back to an All-Ireland final where they've been. And, this could be a big, big season for this Galway side because a lot of boys are getting on a bit, a lot of injuries on the clock. Porrick Joyce has had a few years. Our good friend Finian Hanley has said many times that they've maybe underachieved. So, going into this week, momentum's maybe against them. Injuries are against them. It's a quick turnaround time. I think they will hobble over the line, but I agree. I don't think they're going to cut delve in terms of getting into a final.
Yeah. And Kev, last thoughts on Cailán Mooney? What a servant.
Yeah. In a former life, I interviewed him for the BBC when he was very young, and he was just going to the Aussie rules.
Yeah.
Brilliant guy, over 10, 15 yards. His pace he had was incredible.
Electric.
But again, one of these careers that unfortunately a lot of people will remember for horrendous injuries. Maybe cut out some of his prime years of his career. And unfortunately, we're talking, Davey's talking and Killian's talking about down in Kerry, a lot of players with injuries. Unfortunately, we're seeing more and more guys get injuries and their careers being shortened. And maybe it is time for the GA to do some research into, are we training too much or what are our best methods? Because somebody like, as I say, somebody like Mooney we lost the best years of him to injury. We really did.
Mm. And Jesus, big thing to say, lads. We nearly lost them all together, so it's great to see Cailán Mooney fighting well, and young family there too. So it's great to see him flying, and the best of luck to him in the future. And then we have Donegal against Louth, lads. It was Donegal 2-22, Louth 12 points in Ballybuffet. I don't know, Killian Whelan, not a great game here. And look, we probably expected it to a degree, but Jesus Christ, not the scoreline. And I wonder, did the bus find the way home?
Yeah. Someone said they're up around the Glens at this point. But the scenario, look, that wouldn't help, but I don't think it was a factor. I was looking at this going to be a trouncing, I think, anyway. I think Louth, as someone rightly said in our group, they climbed their Everest a few weeks ago, and I interviewed Ger Brennan after the game last weekend, and like he kind of was really at loggerheads over the last couple of weeks of trying to get the guys back in the headspace. That seemed to be a big problem. But look, I remember what it's like winning the Leinster title when you haven't won it in a while, John, and you had to celebrate them. I know Miko was against it somewhat, but they have to be celebrated. And when you haven't done it since 1957, I can firmly understand it, but probably hard to get the guys back in terra firma and get them back on the ground and whatever. So look, it's been a phenomenal year, and Louth GA are on the up. They're going to be a team to keep an eye on. But I'm telling you, I think this was a statement again from Donegal. Like 7 goals and 155 points, I think, John, in 7 games. Like that's some kicking here, man. Like it's love them or hate them, or they're definitely building a wall around Donegal at the minute here. There's no doubt about it, and they are obviously on one target now, and that's the main thing. I don't think they'll be too bothered at the weekend either. Although Monaghan, I'm sure will have something to say, but I still expect Donegal are going to be in the mix, and don't be surprised if they're there on All Ireland final day.
Might hear much anymore. That's thing, but that Kev. Before I go to Johnny, Kev, did you ever get lost on the way to a game in the bus?
Can we just stop this conversation about the match, because when I heard that, I just knew it was going to be a bloody disaster. It was a bloody disaster to watch. I think the big thing for Donegal is they've got momentum and a lot of players coming off the bench as well that can add in. You know, you look at the scoring power they have, Killian rightly pointed out, but also defensively they're quite strong. So it'll be interesting to see. Yeah, they've been my tip from the outset, but look, there's a few injuries and Jim's getting a bit grumpy with the media now. So hopefully this week they'll just focus in on their job to do. There's 2-3 weeks of the year to go, just batten down it. And I wouldn't be surprised if it's them and Armagh at the final. I wouldn't be surprised.
Oh, Lord. Johnny Berta.
Yeah, look, it was a foregone conclusion, and I think that the bus driver with no sat nav just put the tin hat on it and think Jim McGuinness is actually giving out about it. He's going mad that the bus driver done that because he wanted a really tough game to get him going for next week. So I think the groundsman is actually, I heard the groundsman got the road too. The grass was a couple of millimetres too high as well, so he's giving out about that as well. So
When we hear they have a 6-day turnaround.
yeah, 6-day turnaround as well. There'll be no windows in some CCC man's house, but
lads, but how the fuck did the bus get lost? Like, were they all asleep on it? Like, I don't understand.
No, it's look at it. Listen, I fully understand it. Like Jared Brennan and Mina, you know, like this man fell out of love with football a few years ago, and he didn't want anything to do with it. From he moved up to Dublin, them boys having me out of Dublin, they wouldn't know where the hell Donegal is, you know. So it's an easy mistake to make, the London Sligo.
There's rumours the sat nav was upside down.
John, do you remember the Roscommon bus a couple of years back that they all got the publicity over? The bus was spread and all, and this was a big whopping bus that spent 200,000 or something on. I'm walking down Belfast City Centre one night, and it's parked up Sandy Road with Roscommon GA on it. And I'm thinking to myself, who's advised them on this? You know, so you never know where you'll find a GA bus around this country.
You still didn't answer the question. Were you on a bus? You know,
yeah, surely, Kevin, you got lost. Kevin, you surely.
Listen, I've been to many GA grounds across the country. It's quite easy, all right? It's go down, find the church, take a left, right? And then down the local shop, take a left, right? And then down past the pub, and it's down there about 150 yards. That's the easiest way to find a GA field, you know? By the way, Davey, is there any truth in the rumour that Kerry are staying in the Europe Hotel this weekend because it's the only one closest to Dublin they can get?
Or you're doing well to get a hotel in Killarney, I'll tell you that much.
Yeah, it'd be cheaper in Dublin. Europe's not cheap. No, look at John. Cavan's right. There's not really a pile more to say about it. You know, it was. We'll chat about the other game coming up, and I'll have a wee bit for that there on Donegal, but I'll just I like Killian off the hook for the minute.
Oh, brilliant!
I still go back to the fact that you're looking at McBrearty, Darrow Boyle, Niall O'Donnell. These guys are not getting, didn't get a start, and obviously come on and have a part to play. I just think that they're all their parts are moving quite well. That's a big thing. And Patton is going to be huge. I think ultimately Patton could decide this All-Ireland series, lads. If he picks up an injury, well, then maybe we have a concern. But Patton, I think, is going to be huge to this team in the next 3 matches.
I seen Chris Kerr, former Antrim goalkeeper, tweeting yesterday that how quickly Patton gets the ball out. Now, okay, at the game in Louth, there wasn't a lot of cut and thrust to it. But that's the importance of the quick turnaround and turnover, and other keepers are seeing this. But, Killian, the one player that's worrying me at the minute with Donegal, I've said it here 3-4 times.
I'm good.
Kieran Thompson. He isn't cutting the mustard the way he has been. I don't want to pressurise the lad time and time again saying it. But if Donegal are to win the All-Ireland, they need him because he's an outstanding player. And he's just this season, he's sort of hit a wee lull a bit like Paul Conroy. So maybe in the next couple of weeks, he can step up to the mark too for them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and you mentioned there that the spread of scores in the down game. I think Donegal had 12 different scores, and that's huge going forward, I think, and it just shows how good a team they actually are,
Across the board.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely, lads. And I suppose we will move on to this weekend's. Jeez, I'm still nearly laughing over that whole bus thing. This weekend's action in the All-Ireland Senior Football Championship quarterfinals on Saturday. You have Tyrone against Dublin in Croke Park at quarter past 6, and of course, the game will be live on GA plus Killian Whelan.
Jeez, Cavan gone off it. Look what happened. Got 1 day out on GA plus, and look what happened, John. Double header GA plus at Croke Park. You're asking me who's going to win between Tyrone and Dublin. I think Tyrone are going to do it. I just said, going back to what we said earlier on, I just think Tyrone will suffocate, taking Kevin's term. This Dublin crew, I think they will need all parts to be moving and united, and I don't think that's going to happen in 6 days. So, I maybe I'll be proven wrong, will be egg in the faces, but I just think this is not the draw that Dublin would have wanted at all, and it's the draw that Tyrone would have wanted. So I'm going to call Tyrone to win this one.
Kev, what are you thinking?
Yeah, look, I've said it, not to prolong the conversation. I think Tyrone's firepower, Tyrone's bench, will be. We talked about momentum going down the stretch, the squads, injuries. Okay, Tyrone have lost probably Michael McKiernan now for the season. I'm not sure what the story is there, but apart from that, they've everybody nearly available to them that they want. One big problem I have with Tyrone at the minute is still, I've said it, Kirkpatrick's a great player and Kennedy's a very, very good player. The midfield a wee bit inconsistent. Again, Mayo as well, they were found out a wee bit there, but I think they've got great scoring power up front. The likes of McCurry and the two Canavans about, so it's. I think everything points to Tyrone. They've had that week off as well, and there's a big game in Tyrone. They've been a wee bit schizophrenic this year in the league. Obviously, they went down. Well, they have 6 points and still went down. They were up and down in the league. They've been the same in the championship a wee bit, So, bit of consistency now, and for me, I don't think Dublin stand a chance. I really don't. I think the firepower, I write Dublin off with my pearl, but I think the firepower Tyrone have is outstanding, and I don't think Dublin have the defence to cope with that. So I'm going to go for a Tyrone win and quite a statement Tyrone win, I think.
Absolutely, Kevy. Absolutely. And then we'll move on to the other game on Saturday. It's Monaghan against Donegal in Croke Park at 4 p.m. And of course, the game will be live on GA Plus. Jimmy McGuinness is making his way to Dublin, Johnny.
Yeah, he is. Jimmy winning matches. But look at boys, the bookies are writing Monaghan off. And now the one thing I would be worried for Monaghan is they don't have a good record in Croke Park. But I wouldn't be writing Monaghan off. I think, they like that, they like the underdogs tag, everything else. But Monaghan is good enough defence. They're probably just lacking compared to some other teams in the forward department at different times. But they're a big, strong, able team. And they will get wired into Donegal. They'll have their homework done. Now, I agree with Gillian, absolutely. There's two parts of that there, and like Patton is absolutely critical, but so is Rory Beggan. So if Rory's on form here the weekend, lads, he could decide this game on his own, kicking 2-pointers. So both keepers are very, very important this weekend, and evenly matched keepers I would add at different times. If Beggan doesn't come out and get involved in the play and stuff like that, if he just sticks to his strengths, he can decide a game on his own. So I wouldn't write them off. A massive thing, a problem for me that I find with Donegal, and it's the only reason I think of all the parts, of all the components, they have the goalkeeper, they have McCole there, one of the best defenders in Ireland. They do have the bench, they have the subs. Now, McBrearty for me didn't start because he doesn't deserve a start.
No, he doesn't.
Not the football he's been playing, lads, in 3 or 4 games. He hasn't deserved a start. He's gone off the boil from he come back from injury, and he hasn't looked himself. Oisín Gallen's been in and out. Sometimes Oisín Gallen will torture you, and sometimes he goes cold. But he's a seriously talented footballer. But the biggest worry for me is Michael Murphy. And that he has to come back and be the leader.
Oh, okay.
And he has to be the stalwart. And he is the leader and absolutely amazing footballer. But as these games keep coming, Kevy, and keep coming and coming and coming, can this man at his age see out games and be the main man when we're up against Division 1 teams now in the cut and thrust of this bloody championship, when it gets going to boiling point to win All Ireland? And I think they're going to come up short on that. I really do. And I wouldn't write Monaghan off the weekend. Absolutely not. And I think the bookies to make Donegal 4-point favourites. I'm telling you now, boys, Monaghan has nothing to lose, and they're gonna love that. They're coming up here to have it, and they will have a serious crack. This is a big difference in Louth going up to Ballybuffet. This will be a whole different ball game the weekend.
Yeah. Yeah, really exciting game to look forward to. Two really exciting games to look forward to on Saturday, lads. And then Sunday's action in the All-Ireland Senior Football Championship quarterfinals. It's Meath against Galway in Croke Park at 1:45. Of course, game will be live on RTE. David Byrne, big game for Galway.
Yeah, I think quick turnaround as well for him, and I think that'll be closer than what people think. I think they should get over the line, but injuries are racking up as well, and I think that I do think that'll be a lot closer than what people are thinking. But I do think Galway will get over the line.
Killian?
Yeah, I think I said at the top of the show I wouldn't be surprised if neither Leinster team are in the championship after this weekend, but this might be the one game that'll be close because, if some of those Galway problems aren't ironed out, Meath have been sitting back now for a week, probably on after one of their finest wins, in recent times. They're in a rich vein of form. They might again just be in bonus territory somewhat and have a cut off this, So, there could be a little bit, Robbie Brennan as well. Louth gone out of it. Dublin might be gone out of the championship the night before. Maybe that'll be something to kind of say, hang their hat on, that there'd be the only Leinster team left in the championship and something to go for. I do think the 6-day turnaround could have an impact on some of these teams. And with Galway having some of their issues, that could be a factor here, that, the benefit could be of those that obviously had the weekend off. And, I know I've talked about Donegal, but I would allude to something what Johnny was saying there as well, that, this run of games, every weekend there, Jimmy has already put in the excuse so far, that could be a factor. And the same might come here with Galway and Meath. They might be there ripe to take some of the pickings off them, But I think this could be the tight game. And if you were to push me here, I think Galway might just be have enough class to be able to get over the line.
But where to go after this game will
Well,
be
that's
very,
it.
very, very interesting.
John,
And then-
the silent pig eats the most. And me, they're very bloody silent at the minute.
Oh, yeah.
There's a lot of talk and a lot of speculation around all these other teams, and rightly so, and me included. And I've said I think Galway will creep over the line. But just be wary of Meath. They're a big, strong team. And 95% of the time when a Meath team goes out, they make it bloody well hard for you to get over the line. And, just beware of that silent pig. Because at the minute, they're just going right underneath everybody's radar.
Johnny, what do you make of that expression before we move on?
Fully agree. He was talking about Bogers earlier to me, so it makes a lot of sense. But I think I probably wouldn't have just phrased it like that, Kevin. But I think he's right, though. He's 100% right. Meath is absolutely not to lose. They've got a good break. They're going to be hitting the ground running. They're going to go in as underdogs. Maybe a couple of key injuries like Killian alluded there. If Comer and let's say Shane Walsh can't make it back onto this field, which I do think he will, even if he's on one leg. But if something like that is actually true up, we find ourselves in a serious situation for Galway coming in at the wrong time, and they could be caught. And another team, exact same position as the silent pig, is Tyrone. And you never write them off. And as I've been saying, real early doors, whatever you do not write Tyrone off. that I says I wouldn't be surprised if we seen a repeat of 03 final. And I said that to you a month ago, because I know the forward line that Tyrone has. Now, they have their issues in defence, but they have the forwards, and like Meath, they're two teams now that's very, very quiet, and I'd be wary about them.
John, can we tell the burger story?
No.
Go on, Kevin, quickly.
So, Davey, just for you and Killian, and for our watchers in the south, there's a place up north here. I think they're in Armagh as well, but mainly in Newry and surrounding areas. There's a place called Friar Tuck's, right?
He's getting a few quid for this, is he?
I tell you, it does the finest bloody food you've ever seen. So on the group chat yesterday, Finney and Hanley broke it that him and Stephen McDonald were going afterwards for a Friar Tuck's. Well, I gets up out of the house, drives to McDonald's and spends £7 on a piece of shit just because he made me hungry. Friar Tuck's, man. The next time you're in Newry, it's like when you go to Kerry, you have to go to Fitzgerald Stadium. When you go to Newry, you have to go to Friar Tuck's. Monday night, me and Johnny rolled out of the Canal Court, and half the burger was all over our shirts. Never mind, you get that much. Some spot.
And more stuff than the burger as well, but it was less for another day.
Oh, love it, lads, love it. Sponsored post by Kevin McGurdy, but no, it sounds like a great.
He's bringing the franchise down here, I'd say.
He could be.
I tell you what, he'd have stiff competition in Kerry when you get the Quinlevins. I tell you, there's nowhere else you'd be going in Kerry than there.
That's it.
He not get planning permission. The Heady Rays will object.
Not if they get
they'll just bite off you.
Oh, brilliant stuff. Well, that's all the action wrapped up, all the action finished, and thanks a million.
What about Kerry and Armagh?
No, I was waiting for Johnny.
Take the bait there.
Last game of the weekend, lads, before Johnny explodes here. Armagh against Kerry in Croke Park at 4 p.m. And course game will be live on RTE. Johnny Murta, this is show business, this is box office. Are we heading for a sellout?
Yeah, I think it will. I think it will just about maybe get around that 70,000 mark, or 65 anyway. I'd say it's going to be close. Meath's going to bring a big following as well, especially to that game. But look, I'm really looking forward to it. It's a draw we want, but it's a draw I want, and I think a couple other Armagh fans was chatting is the same. Now we are going in as favourites, rightfully so. We're All-Ireland champions, and Kerry does have their injuries concerned. But listen, all those boys have been round the corner too, and Kerry's Kerry. Kerry has tradition. Kerry has the best forward in Ireland, for all the problems. And if Armagh is not what I want to see from Armagh the weekend is be ultra ruthless, absolutely be ultra ruthless. That when they get the chance and they have their boot on their throat, is to put them into the ground and they keep going at it and put the statement down and the marker down and just do to Kerry what Kerry would do to everybody else if you get the chance. And that's what Armagh has to do. They have to bring that A game to the table, the pace that they can bring. Oisín Connolly, the Ross McQuillan's coming from deep. Want to see Rory Grugan back. Want to see Ben Creedy back in midfield as well. And I want to see the big man Rain stepping up again Kerry like he did last year. His performance against Kerry last year and his performance in the All-Ireland final got him an All-Star. I want to see that again from him. But if we're not on it, John, Kerry will put you to the sword, and they're very, very ruthless when they do it. And that's what I'd be fearful of. We're going to have to be on it. And you don't rate a Kerry team off. Absolutely no chance. You can't rate them off. Especially not with David Clifford, you can't.
No.
But on paper at the minute, we're rightly favourites, but now we have to go out and win the game. I do think we have the team, we have the panel. Bar maybe one. I think there's one or two. I think everybody's fully fit. So unlike the Kerry situation, they have two or three and a few major issues. But we're in a good place at the moment, but at the end of the day, you have to, when you cross that white line, you have a job to do, and we're going to have to do it.
Who marks Clifford?
Good question.
Burns?
No, I wouldn't put Burns on, I don't think. I'd say it's going to be a couple of men. There's going to be one probably pick him up, Burns could pick him up, Kevin, but I'd say maybe McCambridge could pick him up. But for me, he's sort of went off the boil this year. He's not playing the football he was playing last year, or maybe the rule change is slightly different for him. Just doesn't suit him. Aaron McKay has been a big miss. He hasn't been fully fit, and Paddy Burns has sort of been the man that's been sent around to try and put out fires left, right, and centre. So I do think Armagh have put in a lot of work, Kevin, in that department over the last number of weeks. Their training camp and different things, have been working on different things, and listen, they're going to be well set up. There's no doubt about it. Like, the boys have to do their homework, but I'd say it's going to be a couple of men, and it's going to be. I'll imagine a zonal defence, Kevin, will be the way they'll go at it, and they'll try and just close down the space as best they can, and maybe cut off the supply. I'd be thinking, so maybe stay a bit high up the field at times as well. Try and cut the supply. But it's going to be a team performance. Now, one man that goes on the radar playing this game is Rain. Because Rain comes right back, is that free road he plays, and he goes over and back as the ball. So when you look up out the field, and Kerry like to play that pass into him, especially Paddy likes to play that pass in, first thing he can see is this big massive figure. He'll be standing in that space, and he'll be just going over and back like this. You watch the way he does it. Very good reader of the game, and he knows where to position himself, sitting in that space, Kevin, just going over and back. So it's a game that Rain is smart enough to play, and he's done it, and Armagh's got a lot of joy out of it, especially if he gets a turnover. Sure, he can pass about 65, 70 yards up over the top, so he's kind of like a situation, lads, where you nearly love to have him inside all the time, but then when he's doing jobs like that, you could play him anywhere. So
yeah,
it'd be good, hopefully, to see Oisín O'Neill maybe back in a few minutes. I believe we might see him. Hopefully, I think he's in a good place. He was playing very, very well up until he got a niggly injury. So if you have the two of the boys on the field, it's another man that can kick a 2-pointer as well. So he kicked a good few of them early on in the championship. So look, hopefully we have a good bit of health come in the weekend.
David Byrne, what's the mood in Kerry like?
Not great, John, to answer. It's been very, very flat all year, and I think it's going to be very, very difficult to just all of a sudden up the game, 5 days time now, and I just think that, the crowds haven't been great. There just isn't that buzz around it. There's constant complaints that games aren't on RT. Kerry fans are notorious for not travelling, until later on. But I think that could work against them, work in favour of Kerry this weekend, because, they aren't favourites. People can't say, I'll wait till the semi-final, this usual nonsense that be going on before. And I think Kerry fans will hopefully travel up in their numbers, because I think they will realise that they could make a difference. It reminds me of 2009. Remember, they lost to Cork in the Munster semi-final, went through the back doors and nearly lost to Sligo on penalties over in Tralee. Our last-minute penalty save, and Sligo would have won that game over in Tralee. And, there was real negativity. Kerry drew a very strong Dublin team in the quarter-final, and I think it actually worked in Kerry's favour. There was a bit of a buzz around it. Kerry completely upped their game, and they blew Dublin out of the water in front of a huge, huge crowd. I think it was nearly a sellout. You could be looking at something similar this weekend. Could turn their favour that they're not favourites. It could give them the lift, could give the players a lift, and it's been very flat. They haven't had a real test. No disrespect to the teams they've played, but when you're looking at a group stage that are games they're supposed to win, they're supposed to top that group, the pressure is on them. And I think going up to Meath the last day, to lose like they did, I think they were very, very complacent, and they won't be Sunday. I think that's the huge thing. I think they need a huge Kerry crowd to go up, because Armagh will bring colour, Armagh will bring, the noise, and I think Armagh are huge, strong favourites. They're All-Ireland champions for a reason, but I do think, that it could go either way. I think, I do think Armagh will get over the line, but I do think, we could go back. It could be something similar to 2009. Everyone wrote Kerry off when they drew Dublin because they'd been poor all year, and it could be just to kick up the arse that they need. To be honest with you, the big game that will create the buzz all week. I think people are already talking about it. Whether, the games, Meath and Cavan, there was no buzz around the place, leading up to it.
Kevin.
I think both men makes good. Look, first things first, this is the game of the weekend. There's absolutely no doubt about that. Armagh are All-Ireland champions, and I fully concur with Johnny says. The psychology in my brain, if I'm in McGeeney's backroom team, is we're going to be asked a big question here by the kingpins of Gaelic football. If we want to win the All-Ireland, we're going to beat Kerry and we're going to beat them inside Croke Park. And psychologically, this is the first time the gun's been put to our head since last year. Now let's go in and give a bloody statement performance. And I think Armagh are a much more rounded team than Kerry are. I think Kerry are playing a wee bit like Dublin at the minute with individuals getting them through games. Yes, they have their injury worries. I just see the momentum and the way that Armagh are, the fitness that they have, the way that Johnny talked about, they can play that long ball in the rain, but also their transitional speed. Oisín Connery, the work that lad gets through is amazing. When they turn you over and break out. It will be interesting to see how they set up around David Clifford. But I do like Davy's point. Like Kerrigan inside Croke Park is like Jack Nicklaus going down Magnolia Lane. There's just something special there, and you never bloody write them off. I was at that 2009 game, Davy. I think I actually got kicked out. A few Dublin supporters got a bit irate when I was in their face. But nobody gave Kerry a chance that day. They were going in with no momentum. There was no expectation. And that's when probably Kerry are at the most dangerous. But for Kerry to win this game, 4 or 5 people are going to have to step up to the mark. Sean O'Shea is going to have to come out of the shadows. Michael Burns, the bench, Killian Spillane, these lads, the Guineas that you talked about, they're going to have to step up to the mark. Even a half-fit Paulie Clifford's going to have to step up to the mark because Armagh mentally, physically, and the trajectory they're on in a really, really good place, and they're a really good rounded team. And we'll come back to that point. Why do I think Armagh win? Is it, Johnny, one game in 4 years, 3 years that Armagh have lost in 70 minutes of football?
Yeah.
They're just such a competitive animal. And going down the street with a bench, Oisín O'Neill being back's a big plus for them if he comes off the bench, with the mentality that they have, with the fitness levels that they had, I just think that Armagh will get over the line. And I think this will be curtains, Davy, for, I don't know, maybe, I want to let Killian in, but I think there's been an air of inevitability all year about Jack O'Connor. And I think
he's been too much, the talk down here is too much of a traditionalist to adapt to the new rules. I saw the first game in the group stage against Roscommon. They had a strong wind with them in the first half. Barely kicked any 2-pointers to attempt it. And, it's just that reluctance to change, I think, that and a slow pattern of play. And I think it goes back to the point you made about Dublin, a little bit soft. They're missing a Paul Galvin, Aidan O'Mahony,
Declan O'Sullivan.
Donny, that type of character. I know it'll be killed down everything, but they just don't have that bite that Armagh do, I think, and that'll be the difference.
Killian.
Game of the weekend, John, but I would not be surprised if Armagh hand Kerry's ass to them on the plate. I am telling you, this could be carnage. I'm no question about it. I just think the teams that have got the rules right, on the money, kickouts correct, keepers involved, marauding wing backs, anybody can kick a score. They can kick 2-pointers. They can find the back of the net. Are your Armaghs, your Meath to some extent, your Tyrones and your Donegals. And to me, they're the teams that have utilised their benches correctly, know when to implement, slow down the play, up the play, whatever it might be. And I think Armagh will just be such an animal in Croke Park. I agree with Johnny. I think they will be in Croke Park. This is the time, lads, to make a statement. Let everybody know we are the kings. We have this title. We're not a one-off. That's what the target is obviously going to be with McGeeney. This is back-to-back. We're charging down for this. And I think no better way to take Kerry in Croke Park that to me, I would actually be concerned if I was a Kerry supporter going to Croke Park, because it could be damaging. And I think you'll see the end of Jack O'Connor anyway. There'll be a massive clear out, possibly, all told. But as I said, in Croke Park, Kerry can be a different animal, but I think this Armagh animal is far more dangerous. And if they are coming off that bus and they know exactly where they're going and turn up at the right time, and they appear on the football pitch, I can't see Armagh being stopped, lads. And this could be the end of this current Kerry setup. I'm no question about it. Maybe I'll be found here at the laugh at me next Monday, but I would be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised if Armagh win this by 6 points plus.
Yeah, and you're looking at possibly now, like some Mark O'Shea, maybe when he made his debut in the group stages, possibly starting now with Diarmuid O'Connor now out injured. Their midfield is down to the bone with Barry Dan O'Sullivan injured as well. Like, I think they're going to really, really struggle in midfield. Very inexperienced outside of Clifford. And you're looking at O'Shea. I don't think he's back to his full fitness at all. Body Clifford's not right. Mike Breen is probably still out. I think you've hit the nail on the head there, Cillian, to be honest with you.
Yeah, but that's see all that there. That's what I got there at the top. But the rootlessness has to be there, and that's the difference between a good team and a great team. I was lucky enough to play on a great team, a great club team, and when Cross got you on the rack, we would absolutely go to war. We would absolutely finish and put a team into the ground. And if Armagh gets a chance the weekend, that's what I want to see. I want to see the statement.
But Johnny, I think that'll happen. I honestly think that'll happen. Because you're looking at then possibly Armagh having to beat two other Ulster teams to win the All Ireland. So I think we will have a statement from them this weekend. I'd be very surprised to see a mediocre Armagh performance. I think they know there's 3 games left here, lads, and we're giving it absolutely everything. And I think they've been so well prepared, Johnny. The injuries are so minimal if they are. You have everyone chomping at the bit. I just think their game plan, the way they set up, the ones that have got the rules right are the ones that are going to be at the top table when it comes to it on All-Ireland final day. And Armagh, no question about it, are going to be there in my book. So I would watch out Kerry this weekend, honest to God.
Yeah, and on that note, we've got our own Party Clifford, and Darren McMullen all year has been absolutely excellent, playing the exact same game, only he's a wee bit younger, maybe not as strong as Party, but playing that same game, phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal all year.
Yeah, Johnny, just you bringing it all, Cross McLean up again. Thanks very much. Enough problems with mental health. You had to go and throw that in.
To go back to the gym now.
You have your All Ireland, Cavan. You're doing all right, son.
He does. Oh God, we actually Kevin McGurdy, All Ireland winner. He told me to say that about him.
Yeah, you mixed up the introduction, Johnny, didn't you, John? Sorry.
Lads, absolutely fantastic stuff as usual. Very last questions, and you're going to kill me for saying it. It's always coming. You know it's coming, but it's coming. Johnny Murtagh, players to watch this weekend and bet of the weekend. Gamble responsibly, please.
Yeah, well, I think a name-me player to watch is young Darren McMullen this weekend, and he might chip in with a couple of scores, but the work rate and the amount of ball he tends to handle and the pace he brings to it. So I hope the young fella has a massive game. He's actually a son of James Hughes, actually, Kevin. Per James that lost his life, a good Cross McGlen man, teammate. So I wish Dara the very best luck the weekend. And the bet for anybody who wants to bet the weekend, I'm going to call a nice wee accumulator, nice and simple, John, and I'm going to go with Armagh, Tyrone, Monaghan, and Meath.
Oh God, there's lots of money in that. I'm only going to listen to Cillian Whelan, though. He has had some outrageous shouts in the last couple of weeks. No pressure, Cillian. Mr. McGurdy?
Very simple one for me. Micheál Brannigan from Monaghan.
Oh God, yeah.
He's been excellent all year for them. If they're to do anything against Donegal, he'll have to have another outrageous game. I think he's been excellent this year. And credit where it's due to maybe somebody or in a county that doesn't get as much limelight as the others. So him, and I'm going to go for an accumulator. Armagh, Tyrone, Donegal, and to put the mix in, Meath.
Oh, interesting, auntie. David Byrne.
Yeah, better look out. I was really impressed with Matthew Thompson there for Galway at the weekend. To score 5 points. I just, yeah, I think he'd be player out. And you're looking at predictions. I can't see past.
Who's the 4
Armagh.
teams going to win? What 4
Yeah.
teams are you going with?
Armagh, Donegal, Galway, and I do think Dublin will get over the line against Tyrone. I'm going against the grain there.
Yeah. And then spare thought for Owen Mulligan this week. 20 years since that magic goal. A penny for his thoughts this week. Killian Whelan.
I think the teams that had a rest last weekend are going to be the ones that will advance. That's the nod I'm going to give. Even though I wouldn't be surprised either if we don't have a Leinster team in the All-Ireland semi-finals. I have said that, but I think I'm going to give a nod to Monaghan, Tyrone, Meath, and Armagh, and I think Owen Frayne is going to be the man to watch over the weekend. I think McCarthy for Monaghan as well might be one to watch, but Owen Frayne, I give him the nod. I think it's going to be him that will maybe push Meath over that line against Galway.
Galway could be out of the championship, lads. That would be very, very interesting. Well, that's all going to happen anyway, Killian, because your predictions have been absolutely spot on in recent weeks. So I have to say, my God. Well, lads, Johnny Murtagh, Kevin McGurty, David Byrne, Killian Whelan, thanks a million for joining me this week. And of course, the podcast is kindly brought to you by yourgarage.com. Use my promo code podcast to get 15% off on the website. Enjoy the games at the weekend, lads. Thanks very much.
Slán agus
Thanks, man.